Hey, welcome to the Can I Borrow Your
Yes.
podcast. This is not the
Want to try that? You want to try that again?
absolutely not, absolutely not
The
authentic,
Can
man.
I Borrow Your Car podcast.
Yeah, that's what I said. Can I borrow your car podcast? Anyway, this is not AI. All
No, yeah, if this is what AI looks like, its future is limited.
right, so before we lose everybody, this is John Lusher, and today we're talking about one of the most important subjects, which is ideal client acquisition. And are you doing marketing or something else? Right. And so, John, introduce yourself to the people.
Well, for those that do not know and do not have warrants out for my arrest, I am John Lusher, the owner of the Social Buzz Lab, have been for many, many years. We are a digital first marketing firm that specializes in working with professionals, brands, businesses that are looking for assistance not only in marketing, but in just managing everything related to marketing. And also people that are pulling their hair out, which has happened to both of us, as you can tell, dealing with AI and the changes not only in business, but the changes in marketing, which never slows down.
Yeah. So let me make it easy for everybody. John is a unique synthesis of up to date and traditional marketing knowledge that provides execution, right?
Right? Exactly.
The reason I started working with John is because I cannot stand working directly with creative people after I hire them to do work.
The creatives can be challenging,
Like I like
to
them
say the least.
up until I hire them, I like them, and then I hate them. And so John gets paid to translate and more. But like let's dive into it. So John, I mean, you and I have been talking about marketing for a while.
Quite a few years.
Yeah, that's a good
That
quite
way
a
it doesn't get into the age thing.
quite a few years.
Not that we look old or anything.
Right. Right. Hopefully you're on Audible for this or whatever.
Exactly.
But one of the things that and John's helping me with a new project of mine that's coming out that is focused only on ideal client acquisition.
Right.
And here's why, right? There's too much that's called marketing
Mhm.
in the marketing world. And I'm now talking to business owners and I'm talking to successful salespeople.
Mhm.
There's too much out there. And like you cannot even remotely get your head around it. And what I see happen is one of two things, right? And now there's always
Mhm.
exceptions, but the two things that I see happen is the owner founder is so overwhelmed that they hire an outside marketing agency, marketing expert, or they hire an internal marketing person
Mhm.
and they just abdicate the throne. They're like, hey, just make it happen. Well,
Right.
which means it's doomed to fail. It's doomed to fail because eventually the chances are without that engagement from the owner, you're never going to
Mhm.
really understand the ideal client situation and that person's doomed to fail. Or or the opposite. Owner founder think
Mhm.
they're an absolute genius at marketing and
Yeah.
wants to be involved and micromanage every single thing. All right, John, what do you
Mm.
say?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
and see, and it's tough because we've had this conversation about from our standpoint, who would we rather work with? And the correct answer is a mix of the two that you just described. But far too often, it's one or the other. It's somebody that brings an agency in, such as our agency, and just says, "Here, take it and run with it." Okay, that's great, but here's the long list of the buts that follow. Or if it's somebody that micromanages, honestly, I've been doing it long enough that the ones that micromanage are typically the ones that end up being short-term clients. Not that I don't want to be managed not that I don't want the client looking over my shoulder to see what we're doing. That's fine. But that takes the place of what we're trying to accomplish. They're more wrapped up and involved in managing and looking at literally everything that the bigger picture is lost. And I would rather have a combination of the two, someone that knows what the bigger picture is,
Mhm.
someone that knows for their firm or for their brand who their ideal clients are, and say, okay, your job is to tell us what we need to do to consistently be attracting those ideal clients or consistently be reaching them so that they remember who we are. And that's kind of the best of all worlds, so to speak. But you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of people that'll either just say, "Here, oh, we haven't had success. Good luck. Take a shot at
I'm 100% agreement. So, like, when you look at it, I
it."
think one of the first problems, biggest problems, is most people really haven't defined what an ideal client is.
Or exactly what their ideal client is.
Correct, correct, and that's so, like, for example, a lot of times they'll have either subjective or objective, right? And so you'll
Yeah, and a lot of times the objective, yeah,
yeah.
well, absolutely.
So I just asked this question on in a community I'm a member of, and only one person gave back an answer with any actual objective information,
Really.
right? So it was all subjective based upon how they wanted the client to respect them and how they
Mhm.
wanted the client to treat them and what aspects of a client from their perspective would lead to greater results in execution. None
Right.
of it was wrong, but as I told some of them, I can't find that.
Mhm.
I cannot find that before I introduce you, which means I
Right.
won't introduce you, right? And so
Exactly. Well, and it's frustrating to me from a marketing standpoint, working with business owners, when you start having those conversations and you press them on describe your ideal client. And I have one that I still work with this organization. I'm not going to name any names, but kind of had those conversations over the years. And the answer to the questions were all very broad based. Who's your ideal client? Exactly who are you trying to target? Manufacturers of what? How large? Located where? Exactly. Stuff. And it didn't matter how I came at that question, I got the same answers. It was broad answers. And as a business owner, and especially if it's professional services, which you deal a lot with, if you can't just ask them out of the blue, who is your ideal client? And they cannot answer that immediately, they haven't done the work. They in their mind, they may think they know, but they haven't sat down and detailed out, okay, this is my ideal client and this is why.
1,000,000%. When you
And
look at
without that, no marketing is ever going to work because you haven't defined.
yeah, because 'cause you're just gonna be doing branding stuff,
Exactly.
right? And all branding is unaccountable design.
Exactly.
Notice
On the head.
I didn't say personal brand, I said
No,
branding.
branding for the sake of branding.
Yes. Like, on top of the imagery of that, I don't like the imagery, come on,
Yeah.
2025 people.
Exactly.
So let's dive into it. So, like, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and this I think is valuable for the listener, is how an ideal client will evolve. And let's use me as a case study. You and I have been working
Perfect.
together for quite a few years. I'm just gonna stick with that theme, quite a few.
We were younger then. Let's just
Yes,
say it that way.
s significantly. Um, but, like, my definition of an ideal client has changed. It's
Hmm.
it's become more and more refined,
Hmm.
right? And partially because I've gotten better at what I do, right? And
Hmm.
so I've been able to keep marketing. But, like, from your perspective, without getting into what I've done, I just wanna
Hmm.
really quickly I know you and I have talked about this before, but, like, one of the things I don't think that companies understand is that your ideal client may change as your company matures.
Absolutely. And even as your company grows, your ideal client may change. And reason being, depending upon the size of your company, depending on how you expand the company, personnel, et cetera, that ideal client that was ideal 5 years ago, it may be too small for you now.
Mhm.
It may be too large for you now. I mean, there as a company changes and grows or contracts and shrinks or whatever the case may be, that will change over time. If I'm talking to someone and we start getting into this conversation about, okay, who are you really targeting? You know, give me some history about what you've done in the past. If there's that tendency to say, well, our ideal client is and it always has been, I kind of wonder about that because everything changes, business changes, obviously. And ideal clients or who your ideal client could be will change. I just can't envision a business that 5 years ago and 5 years from now, their ideal client is going to be the exact same demographic.
Yes.
Think it'll change.
I mean, it sort of has to. Like, I do this all the time when I'm working with my clients, whether it's
Hmm.
in group format or individual one-on-one format.
Hmm.
It's a little thing called math, and I just do math, right? Which is why you and I get along because, like,
Yeah.
we can do math, and
The math starts mathing.
we understand that marketing fundamentally is
Hmm.
math, right?
It is.
But it's so interesting because where I've gotten to with my ideal client, which is the owner of a professional service or advisory business, CPA,
Hmm.
legal, financial services, consulting, right? That
Right.
has a client with a lifetime value north of 250K, right?
Yep.
What's happened now is instead of like they are a business owner, right? That's still
True.
in there, but I'm not focusing on how many employees they have. I'm not focusing on how big the company is. Instead, because my business has evolved to a point, and you've
Hmm.
had a tremendous impact on that. My business has evolved to a point where my systems and my individual work for me to be
Hmm.
interested, they need to be making at least 250K
Right.
per average, per ideal client, because that way they get a 10x every single year off of
Mhm.
any work with me, right? And that I like that
Exactly.
10x challenge. I know you do as well. So when you look at that concept, the reason that I've gravitated toward that, and this is my take, I want to see your take from your work, okay?
Hmm.
Is because the really high end referral based sales strategies that I do at strategic referral team, where they're
Hmm.
predictable, where they're scalable, and quite frankly, where they're enjoyable for very successful owners of companies, right?
Hmm.
What I've discovered is that that owner has only so much amount of bandwidth that can be devoted to marketing. And the owners at that level are either going to be have such a high value per client and they've got a little small
Hmm.
boutique business, which means that they're still a salesperson. They're going to love what I'm talking about. Or their company's advanced to a point where they've got a marketing person in house or out or exterior, right? And
Hmm.
they've got a ongoing concern. And the only way that they can actively drive value
Hmm.
are these really serious clients that only they can prospect for and only
Right.
they can close. Here's the thing. This is so
Hmm.
everybody I've not prepped John for this question.
Oh boy.
So one of the challenges when you move outside of that niche that I work in,
Hmm.
and within that niche, when you become a regional type firm, multiple
Right.
offices, let's say 50 employees, one of the challenges you have is discipline in
Hmm.
your marketing process and systems.
Hmm.
Because here's my observation. If you take this ideal client concept and you take it below that executive level
Right.
and you try and integrate it and install it across all people,
Hmm.
you damn well better have a really tight operations process
Yep.
around that, right? Because number one,
100%.
if it's
Hmm.
gonna be all that ideal client that the executive does, then you need to make sure that executives bring in enough pipeline to
Hmm.
make everything work. If that executive's ideal client is gonna be different from everyone else's in the companies,
Hmm.
now we got not necessarily conflict, but we've got 2 competing systems,
Hmm.
right? Which means that I see this all the time in financial services, right? You've got
Hmm.
founder, financial advisor, owner, who in the beginning takes anyone that can fog a mirror because, hey, it's hard to get into business. You and I sold
Absolutely.
copiers. We know what it's like to starve.
Absolutely.
You'll buy a fax machine? Hell yeah. Let's
Lu- lu-
roll.
Luckily, we have neither one of us have been starving lately, but still.
Well, yeah, clearly. But anyway, let's not talk about the Mexican buffet.
Oh, geez.
I think it's been 6 months. I think I'm okay. But but, like, this is the problem. Like, first of all, marketing has to match up with client onboarding.
Hmm.
Marketing has to match up with the transactional process of
True.
defining scope of work, and so, like,
Hmm.
you've gotta have systems that when the marketing does its job, whatever type of marketing you use, those systems have to seamlessly, ideally, integrate into the buying process,
I do.
integrate into onboarding, and then integrate into client delivery or service or product delivery. How have you seen it get less results or go bad when the clients are looking for multiple types of prospects?
Well, the problem when they're looking for multiple types of clients or looking at casting a much wider net, the problem is you you attract a lot of, I hate to use the phrase low hanging fruit, but you attract a lot of people that are going to take more of your time, energy, and effort for less income, is what it comes down to. And if you have, it's like shooting at a target. If you have multiple targets to shoot at, you're not going to be as effective as if you're focused on one target, that one target being an ideal client versus, oh, well, our ideal clients range from, and they give you a laundry list of half a dozen or a dozen things or a dozen different types of ideal clients. And I get the appeal from a business standpoint of, okay, I want to cast a wider net because I need the business. Well, as a business matures, I think that changes as it should, because if not, you're still going to be casting that wide net and you're going to be attracting people that may not be the best fit. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is if you're trying to cast that wide net, your marketing is going to be a ball of hot wax, meaning it's going to be all over the board. Because if you're appealing to a very narrow demographic in your ideal client, then you can laser focus your marketing to appeal to that ideal client. If you have a dozen different ideal clients, that's a lot of leeway in your marketing.
And just put a pin in that for a second. There's 2 important things. Number 1, you have got to be able to identify how to get the attention of that prospect,
Absolutely.
right? So
Hmm.
that's a big part of the marketing, and then, at the
Hmm.
same time, collaboratively, the messaging and the mechanism, right, has got to be effective, like and then it comes down to this, like, so f see, like, different businesses do different things. I work with service companies, professional services, but you've worked with a lot of different types of companies. If you're doing
Hmm.
retail, if you're doing a website,
Hmm.
e-commerce, right?
E-commerce, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Are you doing residual business? Are you doing incremental business? All
mhm.
these things matter in. And if you stop after this listening, hear this. Strategy is first.
Amen.
And most people don't give the marketing companies because most people
Mhm.
aren't hiring real marketing companies,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Most people don't don't have a marketing relationship that's going to challenge it. One of the things that I
Mhm.
value about our relationship is when I'm off the reservation, you are the first person to challenge me on it, right?
I
And
will.
I'm pretty persuasive too. Like, I've been in sales my
Yep.
entire life.
Mhm.
John's like, "I don't know," but, like,
I don't know you wanna do that.
yeah, but it's been well, that's only when I'm losing my mind and I'm
And then we
angry.
go ahead and do it.
Yeah, but, when you look at my process, and we have also haven't done this, how would how would you describe the evolution of our relationship? I run a professional services company, consulting, coaching, some training. How would you
Mhm.
describe the evolution of our work together, which has been, an upward trajectory the whole time?
Mhm.
How would you describe that from a practitioner standpoint? Because I will say
Huh,
this,
good question.
it was me arguing with you about the fact that I didn't want to blog.
Yeah. Well, and I think the conversations now versus, let's say, 5 years ago, the conversations are a lot more focused. And I think they're a lot more focused on ideal clients and on what is your ideal client now. Because 5 years ago, and maybe even longer, it wasn't that you were throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck, but there was a little bit of that. And it's like we've talked about countless times. You didn't want to blog. You didn't want to be out there putting stuff out every day.
I
You
didn't
didn't
wanna
want
do
to
video
you didn't want to do video. You didn't want to do any of it. And
or social or s
yeah, exactly. Fast forward to today and look at what it's done. I mean, you and I were both commenting on a post from Mark Schaefer the other day about AI
Mhm.
and talking about how AI will find you more quickly, more easily through text than through video. And I think you made the point, well, I'm doing daily videos for a specific reason. And that's what matters. You have a specific strategy and a specific reason for doing the daily videos. Now, having said that, you also write a ton. You have a newsletter that goes out, you have other posts that go out, you have a lot of content that is published day in and day out. And I think the way it's evolved how we work together is you've become much more focused, and some of that has been easy, some of that has been not so easy. But you've become much more focused of, okay, this is the lane that I'm in. These are the people that I need to be working with. And, even just over the past year, there's been some people that you have worked with that you're no longer working with. They were not the ideal client for where your business is today
correct.
and where you want your business to be going over the next 12 months. And that's okay. And I think that's where people really need to zero in on if they haven't figured out or if they haven't revisited what their ideal clients are, they need to look at that not only as it impacts their business today, but how's it going to impact their business 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? Do you want to be working with people that they're on the fringe or they're really not an ideal client, but hey, we need some extra money coming in? You've got to look at that strategically. Goes back to that word strategy. And that's exactly how you need to look at your marketing as well. Am I focusing it on hitting those ideal clients and attracting attention and becoming known in that community, the people that I want to be an ideal client, or am I just throwing everything out there hoping that somebody sees something?
Yeah.
And the dirty little secret to that is nobody's going to see it.
Yeah, and, like so, like, from an exit planning, from a growth perspective, I think one of the things that because most owners that are still doing some work, right?
Hmm.
Most owners are overwhelmed. Like, so you and I
100%.
both own small businesses. I
Yeah,
guarantee you there's that we are doing maximum 2/3 of the tasks we should be doing as an owner of a business. Right? I mean,
absolutely.
and it's we just don't have enough time or energy, and that's because 'cause we're old. I mean, we're seasoned, right? But
Especially the energy part.
when you look at it, like, this is why it's so vital to
Hmm.
have that relationship with someone like you, and there are other people like you. They're not from Raynell, but there's other people out
Sure. And they're not as good or handsome either.
as good, 100%, right? But, like, when you look at it, here's the deal. What you and I are laser focused on and working on
Mhm.
now is different from what we were doing 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago when Can I Borrow Your
Absolutely.
Car
Yeah,
first came out. And
absolutely.
and you and I had a specific conversation about the new model based
Hmm.
upon the reality of my personal situation with my son
Hmm.
with profound autism, that
Absolutely.
we were gonna focus on maximizing the amount of
Hmm.
income I could get while delivering massive impact.
Hmm.
This particular avatar of a client,
Hmm.
minimizing the amount of external travel just because of my family situation.
Yep.
Now,
Because not wanting to travel as much. Sure.
right, and so when you and I had that conversation, which I think was we started having it back in August, July, August, when I was so
Hmm.
fatigued from all the travel. It took us about, I think, 30 to 45 days to get to where we are now,
Hmm.
and then it just started to coalesce and get powerful. But I just wanna by the way, that may not be the right strategy for you. That may like,
Exactly.
maybe as a business owner, you've been working with ideal clients, but
Hmm.
you're ready either because you've got the money resources and the staff resources, or
Hmm.
just because you realize you don't have a lot of time. Maybe we cannot focus on you being the person that runs the ideal client. Maybe for the purpose of
Right.
business value,
Hmm.
we've got to be able to take that founder and take them
Hmm.
out of that role. I will say this. I know a lot of people in the exit planning space. I know a lot of people in
Mhm,
the growth consulting coaching space. I
mhm.
do not know a lot of people in marketing.
Really?
Fact. I know too many people. But I don't know a lot of people in a consulting and marketing space that understand how to decentralize an owner operator that is an
Mhm.
amazing driver of sales performance. Like,
That's true.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not as simple as, hey, we need to hire some salespeople. Hey, we need to do this. I
Mhm.
believe, and I want to get your thought on this. I believe that when you've got that situation, like so, for example, you and I have already discussed for the next project after this one that is going to
Oh, it's
be
true.
it is going to be a wider, scalable, decentralized model. In the event something happens to me, the company can keep going. So, like we're already, I think we're 3 years out because the book drops. Then the next, like we. My
Mhm.
point being this: in your opinion, how many people in the marketing community alone, and we're just going to forget the coaches and consultants because some of them will get
Okay.
it, some won't. But how
Right.
many of them understand how to challenge with respect, but also operate with enough authority to distill what that owner operator's got going on? Because it's almost always word of mouth. It's almost
No,
always this thing,
true,
right? Like
true.
that's the problem with a lot of these businesses. And
Well,
it doesn't kill the business, but the transition I think
and
costs too much money currently.
well, it does, and I think a lot of that comes down to the experience level of the owner of the business. And that doesn't mean that somebody new in business or younger and doesn't have as much experience in business isn't as valuable, can't do what we're talking about. But I think there's a certain amount of life experiences that you bring to the table as you get well seasoned that makes a difference. And I think it also makes it easier to have those conversations with business owners if they're okay. I've been doing this for close to 15 years or more. I can have a conversation with the business owner, and it automatically has weight behind it because I've done it years and years and years
Yeah,
and years.
but you're a little different, and the
In a
reason
lot of
being.
ways. Hmm.
True, but, it's a family show. Your background
Hmm.
working in, B&I, and then obviously working with me for the last 10 years, you've got a level of knowledge and experience about word of mouth and how that
That's true.
and also, you're a marketer that has done real commercial sales.
That's true. I honestly
That's
think
rare.
and and it biased when I say this, but I think every business owner, and especially people that want to make a living in marketing, I think they all need a sales background
You
because
know
it
what?
changes everything.
Yes, because this is why I love working with you and why I hate most people in marketing. And I'm being very generous.
Oh, I know. I know.
The chat, like, because you just answered what makes you, and hopefully we can find more, and hopefully the people listening can
Mhm.
find these people. You need to look for a marketer that understands real commercial sales, that
Absolutely.
understands the necessity of knowing a territory, that understands
Mhm.
how to handle all these things. And the reason being is you have zero hope of decentralizing that owner if you don't understand the sales. Number one, you don't understand
Right.
a generic defined sales process.
That is
And
true.
B, don't understand the sales process that that company has. Like, I am very
True.
successful in what I do because I would, without humility, say I'm one of the best people in the world at selling professional services,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
And I also understand it at an academic level way beyond most of the people that talk about it. And so, and you're the same way with marketing. And that's
Mhm.
really it. When you look at it, here's the deal. Make sure that your marketer has sold something other than marketing.
Absolutely. That's a pull quote, as the old
Why did
saying
it
goes.
take so long for you and I? Like, we've been talking about this for a number of years.
I don't know why it's taking so long.
But, like,
It has evolved
literally, if you're listening to this podcast, we have been trying to figure this out for how long?
quite a
Anyway,
few
don't
years
answer.
at this point.
Don't answer.
Yeah, quite a
Over
few
10.
years. Yeah.
Actively. It
There's so but
actively.
there's so but there's so many reasons why that's important.
Oh,
Not just understanding a territory and understanding business, but also, just having to really feel the pressure of the hustle and knowing that if you don't bust your butt, next month is gonna be awfully lonely
yeah,
because you're not gonna have no money. So, I mean, it's just there's so many aspects of what business to business sales teaches you. And there are people that, that's their entire career. There are people that do it for several years and they're like, I want to do something else. And, but at the same time, you take all of those lessons that you learned the hard way and you apply them. And, the first real sales job that I had, selling copiers. The guy that owned the company said, I can give you and supply you everything that you need to be successful, but I can never give you more time. It's what you use your time doing is what's going to make the difference. And I mean, that's
good.
a life lesson for anybody in any industry. All we have is time and we don't know how much we have. So I think you come to the table with a lot more knowledge than you realize whenever you've been in sales. Now, from a marketing standpoint, what has that done for me in a marketing standpoint? It helps me to have those business conversations. It helps me to have those conversations with business owners that I'm coming at it from a background of business and sales, not just a marketing background. So I know business and I know why you have to focus your efforts and your marketing efforts and your team's efforts on a specific target, going back to ideal clients, on a specific target instead of a dozen different targets.
Yeah. I think it's also that
Mhm.
if you've ever had to be in commercial sales with or without marketing support, with or without,
And most and most of the time without.
yeah. Well, as you move up market, you get support. I'm not talking about how good it is, but you get support. If you've ever done that, you have a completely different view on qualification in marketing,
Mhm.
right?
You do.
Not just qualifying when you're meeting with somebody, but qualifying, hey,
Mhm.
does this industrial park, what are the 5 businesses here that I know are a good fit for what I do, right?
Right.
And I think that that changes it. The other thing that's really important is if you've had to actually be out doing business development and being accountable for business development, that time thing comes in because
Mhm.
the best marketing companies, and there are some great marketing companies. They really, I mean, like
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
out there. And what makes them so special is their insistence. This is my opinion. I want to get yours. Insistence that the company that hires them lets them get enough time to understand exactly what an ideal client is, to understand that sales process. Because the great marketing companies are just parachuting in incredible opportunities for you in the most seamless and effective way,
Mhm.
because it's not only like the great marketing isn't just liked by salespeople, it's loved by prospects,
Absolutely.
right?
100%.
Yeah, and
And
that's the deal.
and there's a reason why from my agency standpoint. Typically, we prefer long-term engagements. If we enter into an agreement with a new client, typically it's a 1-year agreement. And you may be sitting there thinking, well, of course it is because that's guaranteed income. True. And that makes a difference whenever you're looking at staff and contractors and people that you need to fulfill the contract. But that's not really the reason.
Marketing's a big
That
tent.
is
Marketing's a big tent. You can't have just one mechanic in the garage.
exactly. And yeah, I would love having long-term income coming in from long-term contracts, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is no matter how well we know that industry or that business or that brand, it takes a while to get to that level that you are literally firing on all cylinders. Can I borrow your car? Because you have to learn the intricacies of how they work, how they operate, how they deal with their clients, what makes them special, what are the sore points that they may have with some clients that they've dealt with. All of that stuff you don't discover before you start working with them. And it takes some time of working with people to learn all of those things. And that affects how you approach the marketing and what you want to talk about, what you want to emphasize, what you want to market, what you don't want to market. So that's where the longevity of how we've worked together, that's part of the key to the success.
Well,
Is
it's accelerating now.
absolutely it does,
Yeah.
100%. And one of the brands that we both know and love that our agency worked with for 7 plus years, the longer we worked with them, the better we were at what we did for them.
Yeah.
And it just kept accelerating because you know intimately everything about the business. And that's not going to happen if you work with a marketing agency and you work with them for 2 or 3 months and like, we're not seeing the results. We'll move on. That happens a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we're gonna park the car in just a minute. So I'm gonna share a piece of advice from my perspective to business owners about marketing companies. Then I'd like to throw it to you for advice you have. Any last thoughts? You ready?
Yep, I'm
So
ready.
here's my advice for business owners, and this is really important. If you're hiring a marketing agency, it's because you're not doing something as well as you should.
Bingo.
And since you are not doing things as well as you should, or you could, that means that you cannot expect a miracle right away. Like
That's right.
you have to approach this with the same expectations you would have if you hired a new employee. Meaning that you like the success of that marketing firm has an awful lot to deal with your ability to lead your company effectively, with your ability to separate out urgent short-term things and be able to focus on long-term things. That
True.
does not mean you shouldn't expect to see measurable results. You may not have the
Right.
ROI you're looking for, but like
Mhm,
the best marketers are going to structure how you work so that you are getting reassurance, you're seeing
mhm.
metrics and things like that. But the best ones are going to be completely dependent upon you understanding that you needed them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And for business owners, this is more in your vein, but it also applies to marketing. To business owners, if somebody walks up to you and asks you the question, "Describe your ideal client to me," and you cannot do that in 2 or 3 sentences, then you haven't defined it.
Mhm.
To say it another way, and this goes back to the sales motivation guru, Mr. Ziegler. If somebody would wake you up in the middle of the night and ask you who your ideal prospect is, and you can't tell them, you haven't defined it.
Yeah. So you ready for the test? Not for
What?
you, not for you, for the business owner,
Okay,
right?
good.
So I'm just going to assume that you're not an idiot and you have a chat GPT account or equivalent. If you don't, there may not be help for you. I would recommend selling within the next 2, right? And I'm not
Good
kidding.
point.
Gary Vee said this 2 years ago, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's
so
true.
here's my thing. I want you to write down your ideal client avatar person, right? And I want you
Mhm,
to have it in text. I want you to plug it in the chat, including here's I'm not gonna tell you what to do,
mhm.
but if after you hit enter, if it doesn't start listing businesses and names of owners of businesses, you failed.
Exactly.
You failed, right?
Yep. Can you imagine if we had Chat GPT when we were selling copiers back in the day?
We would not be working right now. You and I would be you
Pull up to an industrial park
you,
and spend
Jill,
15
Jill, me, and Jocelyn would be maybe not in Key West, but we maybe Marathon, but we would
or
be
we may own an island.
yeah, right, right? Yeah, but that's my thing is like that is your test.
Mhm.
And by the way,
Good. I like that.
if you have the right marketer, that's
Mhm.
one of the first things they're going to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, we used to say years ago, "Have you Googled yourself?" Well, have you Chat GPT'd yourself? Not sure if that's
Yeah.
exactly how to say it, but have you AI'd your that's not it
No,
either.
it doesn't work either.
I'll work on that.
Come up with something. But no,
I will.
I think that's good. Anything else you wanna add?
Well, I think the way that I will wrap it up, the way that I'll pull into the parking spot is business and marketing. go together as much as business and finance go together, or they should. And look at working with and truly partnering with an agency or a marketing person. Don't just look at hiring someone because the last agency didn't produce the results or didn't do what you wanted them to do. Look at them as a business partner in the same way that you do your CPA, the same way that you do anyone else that is involved with your business. It truly needs to be a partnership to where that agency knows the ins and the outs of your business.
Quite frankly, I will go to my grave saying that the most important advisor you have is your marketing advisor,
Mhm.
right?
Think so too.
Because at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do in your business, even if you're not
Yeah,
great, if you have sales.
absolutely.
Like, if you've got revenue, you can hire people to come in and fix problems. If you
That's true.
don't
You can't.
if you don't have revenue and you're not
You're kind
confident,
of screwed.
right, right? And so, like,
Almost so screwed.
yeah, I'm like, I mean, literally, I talk to John unless I'm sick, right? But I talk to John
Mhm.
probably
Multiple
more
times
than
a week.
probably more than we should admit.
Not daily, but something like that.
Yeah, so yeah, there you go. Not daily, not
But
twice,
something
but
true.
we're interacting on a Slack channel or we're interacting on
Mhm.
this, and that's what you want. You want a marketer
Our partner.
that is a partner, and you want a marketer that's gonna have a veto.
Mhm. And will challenge you.
Period. Period. All right,
Mhm.
John, this has been
Good
awesome.
stuff.
Appreciate it. Awesome job.
Thank you.